Okay, so GNI, GDP are similar.
Yeah.
So what is GDP? The total value of
Output produced in an economy.
the total value of goods and services produced in the economy.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about the circular flow quickly. So in that income, there's like a fact that income equals output equals spending, but they might say the word expenditure. So basically that's kind of common sense. So whatever I earn, apart from a little bit of savings, I'll spend. Yeah? So income equals spending because of common sense, right?
Yeah.
And whatever somebody spends, another person has to produce, right? So spending equals output. So you could say real GDP, real national income, it's all going to be the same in the end, pretty much. Okay. We've done the circular flow already, but let's recap it. So you've got households. And what else?
Firms.
Cool. What do households give firms?
Wages. Yeah. No,
They get wages.
They pay for goods and services.
Okay. Pay for goods and services. Yep. And firms?
They give wages.
Pay for wages. Good.
Yeah.
In return?
They get employment. No, they get workers. Or labor.
They provide labor.
Yeah.
And firms?
They give goods and service.
Yep. Cool. And just into this, you've got injections and leakages.
Yeah.
So injections are things like government spending,
Yeah.
investment, okay? Investment.
What's the thing? Export. Is it export or import?
Which one? Export.
Export.
Because money comes in if you
Yeah.
sell stuff out.
Yeah, yeah.
Then you got imports as a leakage, taxes as a leakage,
And subsidy?
saving.
Saving us.
Subsidy would be part of government spending or investment.
Yeah.
And if injections are bigger than leakages, then your economy will expand or you'll have economic growth.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a lot of economic growth last time, where we talked about short and long run economic growth.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about AD. Okay. So first of all, what is aggregate demand?
AD is C plus I plus G plus X minus M.
Good. AD is C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So you can literally just use that as a definition in your exams, okay? But it's better to know the wider definition as well. So aggregate demand is the total planned spending.
In the economy.
Yeah.
Boom.
The total planned spending on goods produced in the UK economy. Okay? Goods and services from the UK economy.
Yeah.
It's almost the same as the GDP definition. So GDP is the total goods and services, total value of goods and services produced in the UK economy. So aggregate demand is the total planned spending on goods and services produced in the UK economy.
Yeah.
Cool. They look nice and colourful.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome. Cool. So the factors of AD are C, I, G, and X minus M. Yeah. So what is C?
Consumption.
Cool. I is investment. Okay.
See, I knew that.
G is government spending.
I knew that as well. Let me talk. Let me talk. Just like
Kevin De Bruyne. What?
let me talk.
Alright. So these are all different forms of spending. So consumption is spending by consumers, so like me and you. Investment is spending by firms. And government spending is spending by the government. Okay? So it would be too basic for them to ask you just name two things that affects aggregate demand, and you just say consumption and investment. The thing is, these have sub-factors that they don't really talk about in detail.
Yeah.
You just like learn over time. Okay. So anything like, so how would interest rates affect any of these?
What, high interest rates?
Let's do low interest rates.
Low. That means there's more people are saving less, or spending more.
Yeah. So that would increase.
Consumption.
Yeah. So we'll learn interest rates properly when we do monetary policy, so it's not that deep. But factors like interest rates will affect consumption.
Yeah.
Okay. Other more obvious factors like disposable incomes or unemployment rates
Yeah.
or consumer confidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for investment stuff like firm business confidence. Also interest rates. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then government spending would be affected like by the state of the economy.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go to like learn all of these things over time, but just remember that when you have a small factor, it would fall into one of these buckets of C, I, or G, or X minus M. And similarly, X minus M will do way later in the syllabus. Okay,
Alright.
so that's net exports. Okay, so that would be affected by things like exchange rate,
Yeah.
for example, or incomes, because if you have a high incomes, you might want to import more.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about two way more advanced, like A grade terms with aggregate demand. So you've got multiplier and you've got accelerator. Okay. So the accelerator is not as important, it's just a definition. So it just tells you that firms are more likely to invest when? When would firms be more likely to invest?
When there's a boom.
Yep. So when there's high economic growth, firms are more likely to invest.
Yeah.
And if firms invest more, then that will lead to more economic growth, basically.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's just a fact about investment. The multiplier is how much an increase in spending leads to what?
Leads to a greater output.
Yeah.
I haven't done this in so long.
So your output divided by your government spending. Yeah. So, for example, if government spending increases by 100 million,
Yeah.
the economy might grow by 120 billion, or maybe 200 million. I can't remember if I said million or billion. Yeah. So let's go into more detail with that. Okay.
Alright.
So why might the multiplier be high or low?
Depends on the state of the economy,
What do you mean?
whether it's doing well or not.
Yeah, let's focus specifically on confidence.
Or
Yeah.
like consumer confidence. Or just,
Yeah, and business confidence. So consumer confidence and business confidence.
so the chair always is squeaky.
Yeah.
Just get a new one.
Yeah, I couldn't find a nice one.
You couldn't. They have good ones at Costco.
Is it like this?
Yeah. I got mine from Costco.
Is it like this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
With
because
the
I like
hands
this
on
shirt. It's so comfy.
Yeah, with the hands on the side, and mine goes a bit back as well.
Yeah, mine goes back all the way.
They're kind of spendy, you know.
£100.
No, no, I
50.
got mine for 70.
That's quite cheap. This was like more than 100,
Is it?
but it's older.
Yeah, I've had mine for like 4 years.
So consumer confidence. So let's talk about an example of the multiplier, the favorite one. So what's an example of the multiplier?
How am I going to know that?
When the government spends money on roadworks,
Oh, like, oh, okay.
and then the workers, they get paid. So some of the workers may have been unemployed before, so it creates new jobs.
Yeah.
What do these guys go and do?
When they get paid, they spend the money.
Yeah, so the government will create new jobs, and they might spend money on stuff like food. They might tip workers more. Yeah. And then these guys in the local restaurant, they may get more earnings, and they may spend more on dessert. Yeah.
Yeah.
So overall, the economy is not just growing by how much you spent on the roadworks; it's growing by more than that, because you're encouraging new spending, which other people otherwise wouldn't have done. Okay. Cool. So one of the things that makes the multiplier high or low is confidence. So if consumer confidence is very low,
Yeah.
even if the government spend money on roadworks, nobody's going to spend it. So if you think about COVID, the government may have had some jobs running, like people doing the vaccinations, or so there were so many jobs, like part-time jobs for stuff like that, but they wouldn't have gone and spent their money because everything was shut and there was no confidence that of any fun going on.
Yeah.
Cool. And then the other thing, which is new, is marginal propensity to consume, MPC. Okay? So MPC means non-playable character, like Jack. So marginal propensity to consume. This means how much of an extra pound would you spend? Okay? So if I give a millionaire £1, what would they do with the £1?
Whatever they want.
They would probably keep it in their pocket, or they'd probably just keep it at home somewhere.
Yeah, okay.
Because they already have so much money. They're not going to spend extra.
Okay.
Yeah. But if I give somebody without a job £1, they'll probably use it to buy their bread or their milk, or buy something nice,
In this day and age.
or buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, true.
But they'll spend it on something. They're more likely to.
Well, yeah.
So their probability of spending an extra pound is way higher than somebody who's already saving. Okay?
Yeah.
So they're going to not spend that extra £1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I gave you £100 right now,
Yeah.
would you spend it? Or put it in your savings?
No,
Or spend some of it
I'll save 75% of it.
and spend £25?
Yeah.
Cool. So you'd go out with your friends and spend £25?
Yeah, but I'll spend it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd save 75?
Yeah.
So that suggests...
That's kind of
that-
smart, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a good way of life.
But if you had no money at all right now,
Okay.
and I gave you £100,
Yeah.
over time you'd end up spending it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't have any other money.
Oh, yeah.
So another way to increase the multiplier, so multiplier equals 1 over 1 minus the MPC. That sounds really complicated, but it's not. So 1 minus the MPC is MPS
To save.
or MPW.
And
So your marginal
WW.
propensity to withdraw or your marginal propensity to save.
Yeah. Keep it S. It's better.
Because technically they could ask you to change that, but cool. So, but we just prefer to talk about that. So basically if we just go into this one, if your MPC is really high,
Mm-hmm.
then the denominator as a whole will become really low,
Yeah.
and then 1 over a smaller number like 0.1 will make a really big multiplier.
Okay.
Okay, so high MPC means high multiplier. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So these are like the more advanced. So they might ask you things like factors of aggregate demand, and you can talk about the basic stuff like CIG, X, and M. You can talk about things like interest rates, confidence, but then you can really expand if you talk about things like the multiplier and marginal propensity to consume, which is what other students might miss out.
Yeah.
Let's move on to aggregate supply. So, right. So, aggregate supply, there's two types of it, and they're completely different.
Okay.
So there's short run aggregate supply, and there's long run aggregate supply. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Long run aggregate supply is another word for the productive potential of the economy.
Okay.
The productive potential or the capacity of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And then SRS is referring to, so AD was the total planned spending. So SRS is your cost of production. Yeah, it's referring to cost of production. And then if you look at the notes, you can see the exact definition. But the main thing is to remember that SRS is about cost of production.
Yeah.
LRS is about the productive potential, the capacity.
Okay.
So then the factors will be completely different. Okay. So what kind of costs do people incur? Or do shops incur?
Like fixed cost or any cost.
Just any cost.
It could be rent.
Rent. Cool, what else?
Wages. The cost of goods.
Cool. Good. So wages, productivity.
Yeah.
So these are about workers. So if wages went higher or lower, then costs would change. So if wages went higher, overall your costs would be higher.
And productivity is higher.
So if wages were higher, your costs would be higher. And then your supply would be lower because you wouldn't be able to produce as much because there's too many costs.
Oh.
Yeah?
But I thought if you pay them more, then they.
Oh, not if you pay them more. If wages increased without you're not choosing to pay them more,
Oh, okay.
they need more money because of inflation, and then they want more money.
Yeah.
And productivity. If productivity went down, then you're hiring workers, and you're not getting your worth.
Yeah.
So costs are overall on average they're increasing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't produce as much with the same budget.
Yeah.
So you have to think about it like that. How much can you produce with the same budget? So if wages increase, you can hire less workers with the same budget.
Yeah.
So your supply will decrease.
Okay.
Also, we talk about things we need a lot of energy. So
Protect our energy.
raw material prices. Okay.
Yeah.
So raw materials are things like oil. Also exchange rate. Okay. Taxes. So that can link to exchange rates as well. I'll just write that here actually. Cool. So when we did inflation, we talked about cost push inflation and demand pull inflation.
Yeah.
So if it's demand pull inflation, what would that shift? What curve would shift?
The demand curve.
Yeah, AD. And if it's cost push inflation, SRS would shift. Yeah?
Okay.
And that's because prices went up because costs went up.
Yeah.
So they just pushed the cost onto the customers. So for example, if wages went up,
Yeah.
you can't produce more, but you're going to try and get some of the money back by increasing your prices.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, you got LRAS. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So LRAS, the factors are more long-term things about your actual capacity. Yeah, not what you're producing right now. So higher or lower wages won't really make a difference.
Okay.
They can, but not the main things that are unique about LRAS. Okay?
Yeah.
So those would be things like attitudes. Okay. So productivity will still make a difference, and cost of production. Okay. So productivity, but this is more in the sense. So if I'm talking about productivity with SRS, I'm talking about things like, is the worker being lazy or not? Yeah.
Okay.
Or is the worker taking sick days and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
So some of that still applies. So productivity in the long run, we're thinking, have these workers gone through, like in 5 years' time, we can get workers going through a better education, better training programs, and then they'll be more productive on average.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or are workers healthier overall? Yeah. Cool. Attitudes. So maybe attitudes to learning, attitudes to training, attitudes to using AI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like using AI. Or using self-checkout. So those attitudes could change over time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Enterprise. So enterprise was part of cell, the factors of production. What does that mean?
Capital, enterprise, labor, land.
Yeah, what does enterprise mean in that?
Oh, like businesses.
Business ideas.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Incentives. And then lastly, most importantly, factor mobility. Factor mobility is so important. Yeah? Do you know any types of factor mobility or immobility?
Can you give me one?
Geographical.
Oh. No clue.
I want to say structural.
Oh, I was gonna say that.
Okay. But they're related to the types of unemployment, right?
Yeah.
So if you're structurally immobile, it means you can't flick over to another job.
Mm-hmm.
So in the long run, the capacity of the football industry is limited because rugby players can't just turn into footballers. Okay? And geographically, so London is limited to whatever London has. People from Scotland can't just quickly move over. But if that was the case, if there was a train that went from Scotland to London in 1 minute, then that wouldn't be an immobility anymore.
Mm.
Or if there was a sick training program converting rugby players into football players, then those industries would be more mobile.
Yeah.
So that's more long-term thinking, more long run. How do we increase the potential of the economy?
Mm-hmm.
So with the A star points for AD, what were they? Like rather than just saying the basics of what were the A grade points for AD?
AD. C plus alpha, G plus X minus M.
After that, what was the K?
Oh, the 1/1 minus MPC.
So what's that referring to?
Oh, the multiplier.
So the multiplier. And what was one of the things that... So MPC was another thing, yeah?
Yeah.
So the A star point for supply is literally just... If you could